What we're going to do today is we're going to feature some exotic ideas from comments section. Normally when we do these, we feature from Patreon or Discord or whatnot. This time it's going to be exclusively from YouTube comments. I'm going to leave these mostly intact. I'm going to kind of flip-flop back and forth between it being a not so great, kind of more silly idea and a more serious, well thought out idea. Let's start out with a more silly one, shall we? This is the Child's Legal Guardian. This is an exotic leg piece for Warlocks. Its exotic perk is called Growth Spurt. Each life of your Child of the Old God takes, it begins to grow. With each growth spurt, it begins to increase its damage output. At the end of its life cycle, it will finish with a void explosion that depends on the number of growth spurts it has. And the flavor text is, "That's my boy." Now, of course, this is meant to be a silly idea, but legitimately, not bad. I could almost see this being more than just a Child of the Old God thing, but effectively like any of your damage over time type effects, or like anytime a target is burning with void energy or something like that, that it increases maybe the size or duration or something like that, so that you can have like this really long Vortex Nova Bomb, which would be great because Vortex Nova Bomb doesn't typically get a lot of love. Or you could have a Vortex Grenade that increases its power the more things it kills. So unironically, this could work. Chris Rios, you came up with an idea, although it was meant to be a joke. It's legitimately not a bad idea. I've seen far worse proposed here. It worked out. I'm impressed. I think that deserves a medal on its own. How about a more serious idea to bring us back down to center? Now, it's funny, I typically see the ideas that are meant to be kind of a joke still be within the realm of possibility, but when we go to the more serious ideas, sometimes people don't understand certain interactions, like certain interactions would just straight up break the game. Well, let's take a look at Aaron's idea. This is an exotic Titan gauntlet called the Arms of the Forge Master. Why dig in for the siege when I can finish this with one strike? The exotic perk is called Siege Ender. Modifies Burning Maul to do one large slam, sending a devastating streak of flames and creating a massive fire tornado on impact, causing burn, grants an increase to super regeneration. No, I don't think that this is one of those ideas that ends up breaking the game. I think that this actually ends up working. I think that modifying supers is definitely something more meant for the PvE side of things, and obviously this has a very similar flavor to the Celestial Nighthawk. When you look at this thing, you think about this, you think this is kind of like Celestial Nighthawk, because if you don't remember, Celestial Nighthawk obviously does the massive big bullet, but one thing that often gets overlooked is that that massive big bullet, if you get kills with it, will actually regenerate a small portion of your super energy, which unironically makes it kind of okay for clearing out like rooms of things, because it actually causes those explosions as well. Not the worst idea, and this kind of has the similar flavor where causing burn grants that increase to super regeneration. I think this was written before the Solar 3.0 stuff would come out, so this would probably say Scorched now, but that works even better. And that massive fire tornado, if you're wondering what that would look like, I'm thinking that this could literally copy and paste the same coding that works for the Silence and Squall ice tornado that follows things around, but obviously just be pure solar and scorch damage. Maybe it could cause ignitions inside. Yeah, that could totally work. This is meant to be a serious idea. It accomplished it well. It didn't branch outside of what it's trying to do too hard. It applied something for an interesting niche. I think that Titans having a new ability to modify their super for a solar related thing could really work. I think this is a way to do it. Now, I was planning on branching this out between being a silly idea and a more serious idea, but because I'm too lazy to change the order at which I had saved these, Robert Two German's idea is going to come next. This is the exotic Kinetic Special lightweight grenade launcher. In other words, this is your normal grenade launcher that you would see. This is called the Parade Downpour. This exotic perk is called Cluster Munitions. Grenades, when detonated, scatter into multiple sub-munitions over an area. So effectively cluster bombs, but on a single shot grenade launcher. Already not something we have, kind of interesting. Just from looking at this initial perk, we don't have an exotic that plays exclusively into having a really wide single blast radius outside of the Waveframe grenade launcher, the Dead Messenger, which obviously this is not meant to be a Waveframe grenade launcher. So you've already got kind of a niche going on here. There's something happening, but how are we going to be able to compete with the Dead Messenger? Well, this exotic perk is called Charged Explosives. When Osmosis is activated, this weapon has Osmosis, by the way, damage is slightly reduced in exchange for increased blast radius and unique effects. Solar inflicts damage over time. Again, this was written before Solar 3.0, so this would probably say Scorched. Arc blinds and void suppresses and stasis slows. All of these effects are very logical. They make sense. A lot of the times when I see ideas that are kind of built around like doing something depending on your subclass or whatever element it's using. It tends to try to do stuff that's like outside of what just immediately makes sense. And these effects that are listed here immediately jump to mind when you think of these different elements. The Scorch and causing that damage over time makes perfect sense and has a lot of synergy. I guess that's the nice thing. All of these have great synergy with one another. Every single one of these has a great synergy baked into just being able to take that and apply that to your build. Arc blinding is huge. That could be great for crowd control. We could even probably reduce the damage even further when you've got the arc equipped. Void suppressing obviously would be a little strong in PvP, but we've got other stuff like bombardiers that don't take your super if you get suppressed when you have it, so it'd probably be something like that. And stasis slowing, it's just a huge slowing stasis grenade launcher, which I'm actually surprised we don't have a grenade launcher that exclusively applies a slow effect. Even though this is sort of branching into the Dead Messenger's territory, I think you've got enough of a niche carved out here that really makes this thing stand out. I'm a big fan, honestly. This is solid. This is really, really solid. Okay, yeah, and this is the idea that I was talking about. This one almost broke me. So, in case you are not familiar with this little YouTuber named Forcer, he does meme edits, typically like, you know, the face win in Destiny, that kind of stuff. It's meant to be for fun. It's like I said, it's meme stuff. He sent me an exotic that is, well, it's special. Let's just say that. This is called the Intro. It's a kinetic rocket launcher. Don't know what that means. Maybe it's a rocket launcher that takes heavy ammo and does kinetic damage. Maybe it's a heavy weapon that sits in the kinetic slot. Who's to say? It's Forcer. The main perk is called Zorpal Cactus. Fire a trace beam that summons Cactus HD. When it gets multi-kills, Cactus HD will follow you and fight for you. And the intrinsic perk is 601 seconds. Headshot kills give Cactus HD 2 pairs of flip-flops, which increases his melee damage. And it's just the tractor cannon with an arrow of his... I don't know. I was held at gunpoint to make this, okay? I was told, you know what would be funny? And he sent me this. I feel like there's some kind of unspoken communication that happens between Forcer and his entire community. I feel like I would be angering some kind of angry mob if I didn't feature it. So my hands are tied. Rick Cactus, I think he did you a little dirty. But it is pretty funny. I will say that is pretty funny. Okay, I need to get that idea out of my mind. Let's go back to something that's meant to be more serious. Yes, more serious. This is the Swirling Spire. This is an exotic hunter leg piece. The flavor text is monkey see, monkey do. This changes your middle tree arc strider melee to a spinning arc staff around the user without doing that uppercut, without elevating the player. It's basically the idea that they're going for here is when you do that animation for middle tree arc strider's uppercut, instead of it actually doing that little wave, it's actually going to do what is essentially a vortex frame sword's spin. So rather than it being a directed beam of energy or whatnot, this would be something that's more of a crowd control tool. Now, that by itself is pretty cool, but I do think that there is a bit of a problem with this in that, well, first of all, that last bit of text that says has a 5-second cooldown before regaining melee energy. I don't know why that's there. I'm going to hope that this wasn't designed around the idea of having a 5-second melee recharge. Pulling that back, I think the main problem here more than anything is that it doesn't add too much to the kit outside of what is already kind of there. So you've effectively changed the shape of what is already a crowd control sort of based tool. So there would need to be something in here that makes it slightly more interesting. One suggestion I have here that could be quite unique is being that this is middle tree arc staff that we are doing. What if this, when you're actually in that spin animation, just like you would with the vortex frame sword, it actually reflected projectiles back at shooters. So just like you would have with like the Antaeus Ward, or obviously again, middle tree arc staff spin to win, the actual guard itself. What if the animation that we did here actually reflected those projectiles, making it a little bit interesting as a defensive option as well as a crowd control tool? Obviously, that's slightly changing the overall effect of this thing, but the ability to pretty much on key whenever you have your melee on cooldown, do a bit of a reflect would be really good. Not to mention, it would be quite powerful in PvP because that reflect could basically guarantee that when you engage with that melee, you are not going to take additional damage from targets. All in all, with that slight addition, you guys can let me know, I think that works. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Make sure you're subscribed. Leave a comment of your own if you have an exotic idea. We always pull from them. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Bless your faces, and deuces.